This is Angelique coming to you live from the Shoe Chick Art Studio in fabulous downtown Las Vegas. Woo woo! I don't know why I do that. I actually do know why I do that. I do that to get you hyped up and ready to paint. Again, my name is Angelique, and I am the owner of the Shoe Chick Art Studio. And I'm the Shoe Chick because when you paint with me, kids in Africa get shoes. If you want more information about that, go to my website, theshoechickstore.com. And it's called the store because there's stuff to buy. There are more paint kits. There are journals. There's magnets. So check out my website. So let's get into it, y'all. This is Paint Party 101. What does that mean? That means you're not going to learn color theory or perspective drawing. You're going to have a good time. That is my primary objective, is for you to have a good time. In your paint kit, you have this reference photo, right? This painting is called CrownedShoes, and it is not an Angelique original. It was sent to me to do for a paint party, and I tried to find the artist, couldn't find it. I think it was digital art. But anyway, we're going to paint it today. I always like to say that so that I can shout out the artist. And in the paint party world, there's a lot of common paintings, and this is one of them these days. So anyway, the objective is not to paint the painting exactly like this. But of course, if you want to, you can. But if there's something you want to change about it, by all means, change it. It's up to you. I'm going to take you about 90% through the painting and leave you alone to do it yourself. And I can't even paint the painting exactly like this. Nor am I trying to. I'm painting sideways, first of all, and I'm painting in front of a virtual audience. Art is an expression of who you are in the moment. So how could any two paintings ever be the same? So anyway, let's do a little relaxation because it's about the experience, not about the painting, even though because that's the fun part, right? So let's just breathe in, breathe out. Let's do that 2 more times. One more time. That is to relax ourselves. We're going to physically take all of our problems, all the craziness of the world. We're going to pick it up off of our brains, and we're going to set it on the shelf. And we are going to enjoy this experience, okay? So we're going to take all of the tape and all that stuff off your kit. We're going to take that water cup. We're going to fill it halfway with water. We're going to take that apron that's in your kit, and we're going to, it fully opens up and goes over your head. It's kind of caught on my easel here. So it goes over your head. Going to protect your clothing from the paints that we're painting with today. We're painting with acrylic paints. Acrylic paints wash very easily off your skin, not so easily off your clothes, okay? So if you get it on your clothes or on the counter or something, just take a little soapy water and it'll come out if you get it right away, okay? Your kit also came in a plastic bag. You might want to use that plastic bag to protect the surface that you're painting on. So let's get into it. Identify your sponge brush, okay? Identify your sponge brush. I'm sorry. This is live, right? So anything might happen. I might drop something. I might hit myself in the head. I might mess up, but, you know, it's all good. There are no accidents or mistakes in art. I took my sponge brush, dunked it halfway in the water, applying a light coat of water, a little careful around those trace lines. And what I'm doing is I'm just activating the canvas so that it's ready to accept paint. A lot of these canvases have been in storage, you know, in different warehouses, and they're just really dry and brittle. We don't want that first coat of paint to just get sucked up into our canvas, okay? So I'm trying to adjust a little bit, so I don't want to be all on the camera. I want you to be able to see. So that's why I'm back and the painting is forward, okay? So a little bit of water over the canvas. Don't rush your paintbrush in the water. We're going to put it on the side. If you put way too much water on it, you can take your blue paper towel and kind of dab it off a little bit. Now, what we're going to do on this painting is we're going to go into our black paint and we're going to outline everything first. So I'm going to take the flat-tipped one. I'm going to dip the very tip of it into my paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline everything really quickly. I'm sorry, that's my headset making a goofy noise there. I told you anything might happen. But I'm going to shut it down. Okay, so very tiny amount of paint. And I'm just outlining everything so I can get a good look at where I'm painting. When we're painting, I like to say it's like coloring, but just with a paintbrush, right? So just a light coat, very, very light, okay? I don't want it too dark at all. And I'm just outlining very, very lightly the crown. And I'm going to outline the shoes as well. And I'm doing this in black, just dragging the paint very lightly on everything. And I know it looks a little sketchy. The lines don't look straight. Trust me, it's all going to come together in the end. I take you about 90% I take you 90% through the painting, and then I leave you alone to put in the details, okay? So I'm just using a very, very light amount of paint, not making it perfect because we're going to paint in all this stuff. I just want this outline to show up, okay? Now, if you notice in the shoes, and if you look in your reference photo, there's not a lot of lines going on in your shoes. Like these lines that are right here and these lines that are right here are basically just to keep you on track with the painting. Now, you can put those little lines in there if you want, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of paint and I'm going to outline the shoe, being very careful to what's red because these are red bottoms. So that part is going to be red. This part is going to be yellow, but I'm still lightly outlining it because I just want to be able to see it just a little bit better while I'm painting, okay? So I'm not going to do that line in the inside there. And I am going to do this part of the shoe because that's part of the first shoe. But there's a line right there. I'm not gonna trace that. I think those lines were just put there just to help the perspective of the shoe, okay? If that makes sense to you. So that line I'm not gonna outline. I'm gonna go on this side of the shoe. That's gonna be the red bottom part of the shoe. I'm gonna outline it anyway. I'm not going to do all those lines on the inside. So basically, I just outlined the shoe and the crown, give me a better idea where I'm painting, okay? Now, there we have like 3 size brushes. I want you to go back to this sponge brush because that shoe is pretty big. And I don't want to paint with this paintbrush here because that's pretty small and I'd have to do a lot to get the coverage that I needed. So I'm going to rest this paintbrush in my water. I'm going to take this sponge brush and I'm going to squeeze it out. I want to squeeze all the water out of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my black paint and I am going to paint very lightly with the tip of my brush what is going to be black, okay? Now, it is hard to get maybe in this area right here. So I'm using this big paintbrush for coverage, really. And then I'm going to go back with the little paintbrush and get closer to the edges. Does that make sense? That's so it wouldn't take us all day to paint this in. So, look at that. I don't typically paint with the sponge brush. I do that for the paint kit. So if you're going to paint with me more often, I'd highly advise investing in some paintbrushes with a bigger brush on it. But these are the most economical for me to use in the paint kits, and they work. So that's all we're going to do with this sponge brush, and I'm all done with the sponge brush, okay? I am going to reach back for that brush that we outlined with. I'm going to swish it around in my water. I'm going to wipe it off on my paper towel. And if I'm going too fast, this might be a good time to pause me so everybody can get caught up. And I'm wiping off my paintbrush. And what I'm going to do, and you know what, a lot of times people say they watch the whole video and then they start it over. So you can watch all like halfway through and then play it again and then try to catch up. And I don't know. Whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm going into the black paint with that flat tip brush. And now I'm going to really fill in the shoes, okay? So I'm just painting it in. Just like if I was using a crayon, but I'm using a paintbrush. Please make sure you don't paint the heel in black, because the heel is going to be yellow unless you want to do it some other way, okay? I'm not putting much water on my paintbrush because I want the paint to be opaque, meaning I don't want any light coming through. I want it to be as dark as possible. And I'm going around that shoe, that heel. This part right here, I'm filling in because that's black. And if you get confused as to what's black and what's red, take a look at your reference photo, okay? Filling that in. All right, and then we're just going to paint both shoes. I'm going to play a little nondescript music so they don't pull my YouTube video down. Even when I say I don't own the rights to this music, I've been having problems. So I'll just play a little cool, mellow music. I don't like that song. Let's see here. So you all just keep on painting. Painting in the shoes. Try not to use any water on our brush. Got one more little space right here. I gotta look at my reference photo because I'm getting a little thrown off. Remember, I'm painting sideways, so. All right, if the edges don't look exactly how you want, you're gonna just go right along the side and smooth them out a little bit. We're going to put some white highlights on the shoes. That's really going to bring the painting together. We're doing this part first because we need this black to dry. All right? Now while we're waiting, you might want to pause me at this point so everybody can catch up. Now you can see it just looks like one big clump there, but we're going to work it all out with some white highlighting. Towards the bottom of the shoe, you might want to make sure those lines are a little clean. We can clean it up by painting the back of the canvas, the background color white. I'm going to paint mine gray, but I'm going to do that later because that's not how the reference photo is whites in the background, so we're just going to leave it like that. All right. Okay. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to swish my brush around in the water, wipe it off on my blue paper towel, and I'm going to paint in, swishing around really good. Doesn't matter how yucky your water gets as long as you wipe your brush off on the paper towel pretty good, squeezing it out. Then I'm going into my yellow paint, and I'm painting in the crown. Now, you shouldn't have to worry about it smudging because if you only just use a little bit of black paint when we outlined it, it should be dry. Okay, so I'm just painting it in, just like I'm using a coloring, like I'm coloring, but I'm painting. It's okay if you drag a little bit of that black in there, but hopefully that black is dry for you. So I'm making sure that I go all the way to the top, painting it in. Now acrylic paints, as they dry, they look better and bolder. So you might want to put 2 coats on it. Don't try to glob a whole bunch of paint on it. You want the coat to dry before you add another paint. Same kind of paint they use on your fingernails. You know how when you go get your nails done, and you're like, that's not the color I picked, and then when they're done, you're like, oh, okay. When they apply the second coat, you're like, okay. Now you gotta be careful around there because that's freshly painted, right? So I don't want to drag too much of that black paint in there. I'm even painting the inside there. Yellow. And I know you're thinking, oh, it looks kind of sloppy. Guess what? It's a process. It's a journey. You get all the colors down first, and then you tighten up the painting, and you smooth out everything, okay? So you're gonna see how it's all gonna come together. Now, I don't know if you looked at your reference photo, but there's also, I don't know if you can see it, but like inside here is a little bit lighter. And if you want to, you can add a little bit of white paint there, okay? But I'm going to go on and paint the heel yellow. And hopefully your paint is dry enough. Your shoes are dry enough. If they're not dry, I want you to wait. Because we don't want to smear black paint into the heel. You can actually take this tray and fan it, right? Or, you know, in the art world, we have a blow dryer in our studios. When we're working on a painting and we want to get to the next step quickly, we blow it dry. But acrylic paints dry very quickly. So, usually just by fanning it, you'll be okay. And that's why we do it in a certain order. We outlined it, we painted all the black in the shoe. And now we're going back and we're doing the heel. These little caps on the heels, I believe, are black. We can go back and do that later. Because we're going to do some detail work. So I'm painting on both the heels yellow. Try to use long brush strokes if you want, or short ones if you want. Totally up to you. And again, if you don't like the coverage that you got, put another coat on it. Like this should be dry now. So if there's some spots that you missed up there, or you want more yellow leading all the way to the top, go ahead and put it in there and fill in those gaps, okay? Now I want, what do I want to work on next? The next thing I want to work on is the red bottoms. Swishing my brush around in the water again. Wiping it off on my paper towel. Going into my red paint. I'm going to come real close by outlining first. I don't want any white gaps. I want the black to connect, and I want the yellow to connect. I don't want any gaps. Now the red, you might really want to put another coat of red paint on, because you probably want the red bottoms to really stand up. Remember, not a lot of paint on your paintbrush. Using the tip of the paintbrush. Damn, when you put that red in there, it really comes alive, doesn't it? So remember, you could have painted this any way you wanted. You only have like 4 colors though in your tray, right? Like I kind of want to put red on the top of the crown. I thought that that would stand out more. And you might want to, I'm going to do it like the reference photo. So we're going to do gray. And then I might paint over mine red. Because I want more red in my painting. Okay, so the bottoms, red bottoms, done. All right, so it doesn't look like much still, right? I know you're looking like, ugh, it's all going to come together. So I'm swishing my brush around in the water. I'm going to make gray paint now. And how I'm going to make gray, I'm going to put a little bit of white in my tray. And then I'm going to, I washed off my paintbrush. I'm going to take a little bit of black paint and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white that I put in my tray, and I'm going to make gray. All right. I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to rest it in my water. And we have this, you have one more brush in your kit, and it's a pointy tip brush. And you're going to have to loosen up the bristles just a little bit with your fingers. Kind of play around with it a little bit because they're really stiff. So kind of loosen them up with your fingers. And I'm going to go into my gray paint. And I'm going to color in those circles, those jewels on top of the crown there. And I'm not even concerned about if they're exact circles. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. Ooh, too much gray on there. Remember, don't put a lot of paint on your paintbrush. And this one's kind of... Alright, so I've colored all those in. Now what I'm going to do with that tiny, tiny brush, swish it around in my water. I'm going to wipe it off on my paper towel. I'm going back into my black paint. And I'm doing those little taps at the end of the shoes. Only because I forgot to do them. I forgot to do them. So I'm doing them now with the tiny brush. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but in the back of those heels, there's also little tiny, tiny dots of black. So I'm doing this with that fine tooth, that fine pointed tip paintbrush. Just putting in little tiny dots here and there. Let's just add a little bit more interest to the painting. Okay, so still black on my paintbrush, right? Now this is where I'm going to take the time to really do some line variation, like make the lines a little thicker. I know you have like a couple lines like this on yours. Go over those, go over these lines. I'm working with that tiny tip, the pointed brush, okay? This is where if I want to focus more on the jewels on the crown and I want to make them more round, this is where I'm going to take my time and work around each one of those jewels on the crown and try to make them a little bit more round. There's also like a little bit of black placed in the middle of each one of them. And you're just going to take your time and work around each one of these little jewels in the crown, okay? And that's how you're going to get that. Oh, don't rest your hand on the painting like I just did. Okay, so work your way around the painting and really work on those jewels. If you want them to be perfect circles, they're not going to be perfect circles. But it is nice for you to take a little bit of time. I'm going back and forth in between the gray paint and the black and making them a little bit more neater. Cleaning them up, if you will. So when we do the art, we just want to get all the colors down first. And then we just kind of fine tune everything. Can you believe how this painting is almost dead? Okay, so like I said, get all the colors down, work on your jewels, jewel by jewel, and then clean the painting up a little bit. Like, I don't really like, what don't I like? The black around the yellow. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm cleaning it up a little bit. I'm going to really work on this shoe to kind of give you an idea what I mean. And then you're going to work on the other shoe and clean it up how you want it. Remember, I take you 90% through? See how I'm working on the shoe right here? Cleaning up the lines, making them a little bit straighter. I don't want any gaps in the red paint. Every time I'm switching colors, I'm going into my water, swishing it around, and then going into, I'm still working with black. Cleaning it up down here at the bottom here. Let's say you don't like your heel, how you made your heel. You can swish around, brush around in the water. If you want to erase something, go into your white paint. And I can change the shape of this tap on the heel. You got to make sure it's dry first, just by going around it with some white paint. See that? I don't know if you're able to see that. I hope you were. All right, so one of the very last steps. Now, my painting, I'm not trying to make this painting look exactly like that. I don't have enough time. Really, it takes about 3 hours. Your paint party is probably 2 hours long. It should be. And then you might want to fine tune it a little bit later. When you wake up tomorrow morning, once this paint cures, it's going to look totally different. I'm going to show you a little bit more about how the white paint can help you clean up the lines. As I'm looking, it's like a mirror reflection in here, so it's kind of hard for me to figure out where I need to paint. But like, I'm taking white paint right now, but it has to be dry, okay? And I'm cleaning up these lines and making them smoother. See that? But it needs to be dry for you to be able to do that. So you can clean up the lines in 2 ways. You can go over it again in black, and you can go on the side of it to make the lines thinner in white. Okay, so when you're done with everything, you got everything looking the way that you want it, which I'm going to really focus on this shoe right here. This one. I'm going to work on this one actually, because I think you could get a better idea of how the white is going to help. So I'm going to work on this one a little bit more. I can see, you might not be able to see it, but I can see a little black paint still coming through there. I mean white canvas. I want my line to be a little bit cleaner over here, so I'm going to go over that line a little bit. All right. So once your painting is dry, once it's dry, that's when you get to take and put some white highlights on it. It really makes the painting come to life. I'm going to fan it just a little bit because I want it to be dry before I put these white highlights. So mine is pretty dry. I'm using the flat tip brush now. I'm going into my white paint, and now I'm going to put some highlights on my shoe. So you can see the curves of the shoe. And that's where those lines would have came into play. But if you look at your reference photo, you can see that this shoe, see where it meets the heel? That's an important curve right there. Okay? I'm looking at the reference photo, seeing where I want my lines to be, my highlights for the shoe. It's kind of awkward for me because I'm working backwards with the reverse image, but I hope you can see how critical that line is to connecting with the shoe. And also, I don't think you can mess it up really when you start putting these white highlights in. You want to see the curve of the shoe right there? They have, in this reference photo, quite a bit of white. And this is white paint wiped off on my towel. Not a whole lot of white paint at all. But you want to be able to see the curve of the shoe. Now, if you don't like the way the white looks that you put on there, you can always wait for it to dry and go over it in black. But look how the white paint really pulls the painting together, and they look like shoes, don't they? There's a little tiny bit of white highlights on that yellow. But the white really brings the painting together. But again, you got to make sure your painting is dry, or it's just going to smear and it's not going to look good. Since we're working with white, I'm going to put a little bit of white here that shows a little depth to the crown. And I love adding white, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to my crown because I know it's not. Because I know it's dry because we did that a while ago. All right, 90% through the painting. This painting is nowhere near done. I would be working on this painting another hour, making those jewels in the crown, which I'm going to make mine red. Maybe you want to paint the background. I'm going to probably paint my background gray. It's very rare that I have an all white background. So maybe mix a little bit of gray paint and paint it gray if you want. Maybe paint it pink. Put some white with that red and make it pink if you want. Totally up to you. It's your painting. It's an expression of who you are in this moment. So I hope you enjoyed this journey. Continue to paint. Tighten up your painting. Write your name and date it on the side or on the back, because this is very valuable. Somebody's going to be fighting over this painting one day. So make sure you sign and date your painting, okay? Super, super important. And what fills my spirit is when you send me pictures of your painting. So I hope you have friended me on Facebook under Angelique Daniels or the Shoe Chick Art Studio. I hope you're following me on Instagram at the Shoe Chick Art Studio. And inside of your kit, I don't have one around me, was a little flyer. At the top of that flyer has my phone number. Text me your picture. It fills my spirit. That's like the best part of painting, to see what you have done. Send me the pictures at your event. Send me pictures of you sipping wine and painting. I love, love, love it, and I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you so much for investing in a very small business, soon to be big one day. Again, my name is Angelique. Thank you so much for painting with me. If you're celebrating a birthday, happy birthday. Happy whatever it is that you're celebrating. Be safe. Wear your mask. Wear your gloves. This pandemic is not over, even if you're vaccinated, okay? Be safe, y'all. Thank you. Bye-bye.